Mr. Speaker, I'm going to carry on from the Honourable Nicole McKee and her speech. It is an absolute honour to rise to speak to this Anzac Day Amendment Bill, and to do so in this room which is surrounded by memories of conflicts past and the role that New Zealand has played in those. I want to thank the Minister for bringing this bill to the House, because this is something that New Zealand First has always stood very proudly behind our service personnel, and also very proudly behind the Anzac Day commemorations. And it's really been very, very heartwarming to see the the resurgence of interest of Kiwis of all ages in supporting our service personnel through the Anzac commemorations. Mr. Speaker, we often say, lest we forget, we say we will remember them. And this bill is about making sure that remembrance is more inclusive than it has been through the legislation as it stands at the moment. Just in terms of lest we forget, one of the things I had the privilege of doing, I guess it was a self-generated privilege of doing when I was a city councillor in Wellington, was to recognise that we had quite a number of street names which were named for people, places and events from the First World War. And as part of the World War I commemorations, the 100-year commemorations, I set out to tell those stories of those places and to recognise those streets with the poppy sign and a little bit of the story behind those. Look, we hadn't forgotten the battles, or the people remembered those, but they had forgotten the people. And in this town, the people back in 1917 had actually said, well, we want to remember some of those people who were special to us had gone and died, but we had forgotten them many generations later. So to be able to put a sign up there and say, let's remember those individuals, was to me a really important thing to do. Mr. Speaker, this bill is all about being more inclusive. It's about recognising the conflicts since 1966. It's about recognising peacekeeping activities and UN missions where they are in dangerous situations. These are still people who are going to serve New Zealand and putting their lives on the line in risky situations. The Home Guard we've already had talked about. It's about also recognising those who served in other forces, in allied forces as well. And for example, my wife's grandfather and his brother both served in the Second World War in the RAF, and both of them died in the RAF in active service. So those things come very, very close to home, and it is good to be able to recognise them. It's about recognising too the people who died in training activities or from sickness as well. And two other groups I particularly wanted to talk about. One is medical personnel who may well not have been military medical personnel, but who went to serve to support our service piece personnel. And I recognise particularly, it would be good to recognise particularly our nursing personnel who went. In the First World War we lost 16 nurses in active situation, either through illness or in one case 10 nurses who died when the Marquette was sunk in the Aegean. And of course that was there in the Aegean to support the Gallipoli, the Anzac operation. So it is absolutely right and proper that we recognise the service of, if you like, people outside of uniform or in a different uniform, our nursing personnel. And the other group I wanted to mention was the Merchant Navy. And obviously New Zealand is a trading country, and in those days that trade was particularly with the United Kingdom. And getting product to and from the United Kingdom, and that's absolutely essential to the war effort, was really, really dangerous. And something like 160 Merchant Navy personnel died in the Second World War in New Zealand colours, if you like. And I was particularly, in preparing for this, recognising some of the courage, not only to be able to sail there with the threat of being potentially torpedoed and what might happen then, but also the situation where the Otaki, which was a New Zealand shipping company, the Otaki, which was a New Zealand company ship, which actually was engaged by a German auxiliary cruiser, and it fought back, lost, but it showed the courage that our Merchant Navy personnel showed in that situation. So it is right and proper, Madam Speaker, that we have a piece of legislation which is amended to be able to recognise the courage of all of these people, and I wish to commend this bill to the House and look forward to the submissions accordingly.
Messines Road is the first thing that came to my mind when Andy said about street names.
Yep. Chater, Birdwood, they're all old generals from the First World War, and yeah, there's a lot of famous names up there.
Yep.
I wouldn't have even known that, and I know those street names in the back of Corey. I know Chater Street is the one that you don't want to drive in the bus lane, otherwise you get $150 fine. And it was the one when they first launched the 24/7 cameras. It didn't actually issue a ticket for 4 weeks.
Yeah, and then Freiburg and all these Freiburg Street and Lyle Bay, all these different streets around. That's all from our history.
I don't know how many of you folks have been to Pahiatua, but I always smile when I see Lawson Street, because that's named after one of my my grandparents that served in World War I.
Oh, not nice.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, yay.
Yeah, that lovely little thing when you get virtually. Look, there's not a small town in New Zealand that I know of that I've been through that doesn't have a memorial with the people from around that area, you know, sometimes families, 2 or 3 members of the same family.
Yeah.
We've all seen them. Incredible, proud history and contribution. This people say, oh, you know, what do we really do? What effect do we? No other country in the world has contributed like this little country. Never forget it.
Yeah.
Never ever forget it. We punch well above our weight in terms of the way, and that's why we have always been so respected and continue to be respected in our, I guess, the things of the 1990s and the 2000s that Prime Minister Clark and John Key and Mr. Boulder and have involved our people in these UN missions around the world, and I could probably name 15 at least where New Zealanders have served with distinction, absolute distinction, and got into the hearts and minds stuff and made a huge difference to those people's lives. Every continent of the world bar Antarctica, I think. So fantastic. He speaks faster than when he was on council. Is that just the speed of the tape?
No, we've got it at 1.5 times so we can get through more footage.
I was going to say, if we had that at every council meeting, we'd get through the meetings even quicker.
Here's one that I thinking about. I would say someone does clean them. I'm not sure if it'll be the local council that does it or if it's some volunteer. But yes, someone definitely goes and looks after our memorials.
Oh, they do. Usually the local councils do that. But there's also Major Simon Strombaum leads a group of people or is involved with a group of people through the RSA where they go and clean up all the old war graves and all that sort of thing. They do an incredible job. I'm just trying to remember the name of the group, but I could almost Google it while we're sitting here.
Yeah.
But, they go and do all that sort of stuff. So that's important that that's done. Very important.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order Paper Podcast. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order Paper Podcast.